One wrong step, one signature, one decision made in desperation, and it all crumbles into dust. This is a story about three people who stood at that edge. A wealthy entrepreneur who trusted the wrong people. A struggling mother facing her darkest hour. And a father watching his only son slip into darkness. What saved them wasn't money or power or connections. It was something far more mysterious. A presence that appeared when hope had nearly died. A quiet voice that spoke truth when everyone else was lying. Some called her a miracle. Others couldn't explain her at all. But those whose lives she touched would never forget the woman who saw what others couldn't see. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. In the sprawling chaos of Lagos, where ambition and survival dance together on crowded streets, lives intersect in ways we rarely understand. Behind the gates of luxury estates and within the walls of struggling homes, the same battle rages. The battle between truth and deception. Between loyalty and betrayal. Between what we show the world and what hides in the shadows of our hearts. Success in this city can make you blind. Desperation can make you vulnerable. And sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones planning your destruction. But there are forces at work that we don't always recognize. Guardians who move through our world like whispers on the wind. They arrive without warning, usually disguised as something ordinary, something we might overlook. And they leave just as quietly, once their work is done. This is not a ghost story. It's something deeper. Something about how truth finds its way into our lives exactly when we need it most, even when we're not looking for it. Colonel Adeyemi had spent 20 years building his empire. Real estate deals that reshaped Lagos neighborhoods. Partnerships that seemed unbreakable. A marriage that looked perfect in photographs. From the outside, his life was everything a man could want. But empires built on trust can collapse in a single moment when that trust is misplaced. It started with a dream. Not his dream, but someone else's. A young woman who worked in his home, cleaning floors and preparing meals, came to him one morning with tears in her eyes and fear in her voice. She begged him not to leave his house that day. She spoke of visions, of danger waiting beyond his gates. Most men would have dismissed her. Most men would have called her foolish or manipulative. But something in her desperation felt different. It felt true. Colonel made a choice that morning that seemed irrational to everyone around him. He stayed home. He canceled meetings worth millions. His business partner was furious. His wife was contemptuous. But hours later, news arrived that changed everything. The car he should have been driving lay twisted and burning on Carter Bridge. His driver was fighting for his life in a hospital. And Colonel began to understand that the woman who cleaned his home could see things others couldn't. The truth, when it finally emerged, was more devastating than any accident. His wife, the woman who slept beside him each night, had been planning his destruction for years. His best friend, the partner he called brother, had been stealing from him systematically, hiding money in accounts Colonel didn't know existed. Together, they had orchestrated not just his financial ruin, but attempts on his life itself. The housemaid's warnings weren't superstition. They were salvation. When Colonel finally confronted them, in a hotel room where they thought they were safe from discovery, he didn't rage or threaten. He simply looked at them with the eyes of a man who had finally seen clearly. And then he walked away. Not from his company or his life, but from the lies that had been poisoning both. The divorce papers came. The legal battles followed. But Colonel survived because one person had cared enough to speak truth when everyone else was invested in deception. If you're still watching, take a second to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us keep bringing you powerful stories every week. Ngozi knew what it meant to lose everything. Her husband had vanished without explanation, taking every naira from their accounts and leaving behind only debts and questions. Now an eviction notice sat on her kitchen table, giving her 3 days to produce money she didn't have. Her 6-year-old daughter didn't understand why Mama cried at night or why the cupboards were nearly empty. She only knew that something had changed, and the world didn't feel safe anymore. Then came an offer that seemed like providence. A wealthy businessman, claiming to be her husband's old friend, reached out with a proposal. Papers to sign, he said. A restructuring that would save her home and give her a fresh start. Ngozi wanted to believe him. Desperation has a way of making us trust people we shouldn't. But before she could sign away her future, a stranger appeared at her door. The young woman introduced herself as a housemaid looking for work. But from the moment she entered Ngozi's home, everything felt different. She knew things she shouldn't know. She warned Ngozi about the businessman, about his connections to her husband's disappearance, about the trap hidden in those innocent-looking documents. And when Ngozi ignored the warnings and nearly walked into that trap anyway, the housemaid did something extraordinary. She produced evidence. Not just suspicions or feelings, but concrete proof of fraud, of intimidation, of a pattern of victims stretching back years. She sent Ngozi to a detective who had been building a case, waiting for the final piece to fall into place. And when police arrived at Ngozi's home to arrest the businessman, the housemaid had already disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation. Just the gift of truth delivered exactly when it was needed most. Later, Ngozi's daughter would say she dreamed about the housemaid. That she saw her smiling, saying she had to help someone else now. That angels were watching over them. And Ngozi, holding her child close in the home she no longer feared losing, believed her. CHINENYE NNEBE knew he was losing his son. Every argument pushed the boy further away. Every rule he tried to enforce only strengthened the pull of the streets, where a dealer named Kingsley offered everything a 17-year-old thought he wanted. Respect. Money. Power. Belonging. CHINENYE's first wife had died 5 years earlier, taken by cancer that had hollowed out their family. Now it felt like her death was claiming their son too, pulling him toward a darkness that would destroy him completely. The boy, Kola, was being recruited for something terrible. An initiation that would require him to hurt someone, to cross a line that could never be uncrossed. CHINENYE knew this, could feel it in his bones, but knowing and stopping it were different things entirely. He was just one exhausted father trying to compete with the allure of the streets. He was losing, and he knew it. Then she appeared. Late one evening, stepping out of shadows like she'd been waiting for exactly the right moment. A housemaid, she said, sent by someone at the market. But CHINENYE hadn't asked for help, and the person she named denied sending her. None of it made sense. Yet when she spoke about his son, about the danger waiting, about the path he was walking toward, CHINENYE felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. She told him what to do. When to speak to his son. What to show him. Where to go when words weren't enough. And then she did something that should have been impossible. She walked into the compound of one of Lagos's most dangerous men and demanded he release Kola from his commitment. No weapons, no threats, just words that cut through lies like light through darkness. She knew things about Kingsley that no one should know. Secrets he'd buried under new names and designer clothes. And somehow, impossibly, he surrendered. When CHINENYE returned home, his son was waiting. Different. Softer. The hardness that had been building for months had cracked, letting through the boy CHINENYE remembered. Kola spoke of hearing his mother's voice, calling him home. And CHINENYE understood that whatever force had sent the mysterious housemaid, whatever power she carried, it had reached into his son's heart and pulled him back from the edge. 3 families. 3 crises. One guardian who appeared exactly when despair seemed final. In each home, she arrived as something humble, something easily dismissed. A housemaid seeking work. Someone society teaches us not to notice or value. But in that disguise moved something powerful. A seer of truths that others couldn't or wouldn't acknowledge. A speaker of warnings that saved lives. A deliverer of hope to those who had exhausted every other option. The patterns in these stories reveal something profound about how help arrives in our lives. It rarely comes from where we expect. Not from the powerful or the wealthy or the connected. Instead, it comes quietly, through the people we might overlook if we're not paying attention. And it comes exactly when we need it most, not a moment sooner or later. But there's a deeper lesson here, one that goes beyond the mystery of who this woman was or how she knew the things she knew. The people she saved all had something in common. They were at breaking points, yes, but they were also willing to listen. Colonel could have dismissed the housemaid's warnings as superstition. Ngozi could have sent her away when she appeared uninvited. Seeking could have refused to trust someone who knew impossible things. Instead, each of them chose to listen to a voice that spoke truth, even when that truth seemed strange or uncomfortable. In a world full of deception, where those closest to us sometimes harbor the darkest intentions, the ability to recognize and receive truth becomes a kind of salvation. The housemaid didn't force anyone to believe her. She simply offered what she saw, and left the choice in their hands. That's how truth always works. It arrives as an invitation, not a command. And what we do with it determines whether we survive the storms gathering around us. She moves through our world still, this guardian in humble clothing. Tonight, somewhere in this city, a family stands at the edge of their own cliff. They don't know yet that help is coming. That a quiet knock will sound at their door just when they've given up hope. That a stranger will speak truths they desperately need to hear. And tomorrow, they'll wonder if she was real at all, or if their deliverance came from something beyond human understanding. Perhaps the answer doesn't matter. Perhaps what matters is that we stay awake. That we pay attention to the quiet voices speaking truth around us. That we don't become so hardened by betrayal or so blinded by success that we can't recognize help when it arrives wearing an unexpected face. The guardians walk among us, disguised as ordinary people doing ordinary work. But their eyes see clearly, and their warnings carry weight. The question is whether we'll listen before it's too late. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments what part spoke to you the most. And if you thought this one was powerful, wait till you hear the next story we're working on. Because the truth is, these moments of divine intervention, these mysterious helpers who appear exactly when needed, they're happening all around us. We just have to open our eyes to see them.